Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Storm, and today I'm going to teach you about Unity. Now, Unity is a fantastic program for video game development, video game design, video game development. It's used by a lot of huge AAA studios, and it's used to develop almost every mobile app that you've ever played. Uh, Chances are you have played a game that was designed using Unity. I'm going to teach you how to use Unity in this course. Unity will be the vehicle to design our games. It's by no means the only way to design video games. This just happens to be the one that we're going to use. Um, so let me go ahead and show you how to get access to the material or to the um, to the application. Um, Now, if you're in the computer lab, we already have Unity installed on all of these computers, so you do not need to go through these steps. But if you want to download Unity at home so you can work on your own video game projects at home, this is what you need to do, right? You need to go to Unity 3D.com, so Unity3D.com, and you'll see this, this splash page. Now, Unity3D.com has a lot of really cool tutorials, and there's a forum where you can ask questions, stuff like that. And honestly, the tutorials are really helpful if you have some extra time at home and you want to watch Unity's tutorials to maybe help you out a little bit more. That's fun too. Those are great, but I'm gonna give you everything you need to build our projects. So you're not necessarily going to need to go look for other resources online, but just know there are thousands of resources for learning Unity development. I mean, even if you just go to YouTube and type Unity, you know, tutorials, you'll have hundreds of videos that pop up. Um, you can look at some of the games that have been made. Let's see. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Cool stuff. So the way you want to download Unity is you just go to products here, and Unity has three separate products that you can get, right? You can get the personal version, which is free for people like us, beginners, students, hobbyists, people who are just kind of making games for their own fun, their own learning, that kind of stuff. If you want to make a game and publish it on the Google Play Store or put it on Steam, stuff like that, you can do that with the free version. That's totally fine. But as soon as you start making a certain amount of money, Unity asks that you start paying them $25 a month. Um, And then the Pro is for bigger studios that want to use Unity as their main game development engine. Now, the nice thing is there are almost no feature differences between these three versions. The big one is splash screen. So if you have the Pro version, you can have your own custom splash screen and take all of Unity's branding off of your splash screen. If you're using the personal, it has to have, there will be a made with Unity splash screen that pops up in your game, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with that, and so should you. And if you click on that, it'll give you download and all that stuff. Now, the other thing is you might want to create a Unity account. Because if you sign in with a Unity ID, again, it's free. If you sign into Unity with a Unity ID, it'll allow you to save your work on the cloud, um, get stuff from the asset store, things like that. So you definitely want to sign in with a Unity ID. Um, anyway, yeah, so we can go to Try Personal and download all the files. Now, when you download it and install it on your computer, when you open up Unity, it will ask you to sign in. Now, again, if you have not created an account through Unity, if you don't have an account, then you can skip this. But again, I recommend getting a Unity account. I've linked mine with my Google account, so I just sign in with Google. Yes, my password is dot 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 dot. Just kidding, it's not. All right, and scroll through and yeah, accept all that. You can definitely read that stuff if you want. I'm not gonna. All right, so now I have all my projects that have been saved to my account. I can actually put projects in the cloud, which I don't have any collaborative projects in the cloud right now. I have a bunch of stuff on my computer. What we're going to do, that's your projects tab. You have also the learn tab where you can learn basic movement, basic game development through their tutorials. And basically you'll just go ahead and you'll be able to download entire project files, and it'll walk you through step by step how to do that. And again, if these videos the videos I'm making don't seem like they cover enough and you need some extra help, this is a good way of getting some extra help. I would recommend doing these anyway, just because they're fun. I love following tutorials and learning new stuff. All right. So I'm actually going to create a new project. So I click the new page or the new button here, and you want to name your project. My project is going to be tutorial because I'm just going to show you the interface. And right here we have the options to select either 3D or 2D. Now, I want to make sure that I'm selecting 2D. This class is going to focus on 2D app development, 2D video game development. In the Game Development Fundamentals 2 class, that's when we're going to get into advanced 3D Unity development. So we'll create 3D environments and stuff like that. In this class, we're going to focus on 2D. So I'm going to click 2D. This button right here, Add Asset Package, allows you to pick asset packages that you have installed to add to your projects. I'm not going to add any of these, and you're not going to have any of these whenever you just first start the project, but as you download asset packages and use them in your games, you might have some there. And I'm going to pick the location for where I want my game files to go. Now, I recommend that you put it in a folder that you have control over, obviously, and somewhere that's easy to find. What I do is I normally just put my stuff in a file on my desktop, with the words game development, named to game development. I put all my game files in there. Right now I'm just going to put it on my desktop so it's easy to see. And the Unity analytics, you don't really need to worry about that. You can just leave that default. I'm going to click Create Project. Now notice my game files automatically were created here, and it's named and everything's good. Now while that's opening up, I want to show you what's inside of this folder now. So in this folder, which is the same name as what I named my game, we have a couple of different folders inside of that folder. We have Assets, Library, Project Settings, Temp, and Unity Package Manager. Right? So assets, all of these are great and they all do good things and you don't want to delete them or whatever, but the one folder you're going to be playing around with the most is your assets folder. Inside your assets folder is where you're going to put everything that you import into Unity, as far as artwork, music, scripts, things like that. Now, we're going to talk a lot more about this whenever we do the Pong project in the next video. I'm going to walk you through importing assets, but just know that's where they're going to live. They're going to live inside your assets folder, inside your project folder. All right, so I'm going to bring over Unity here. This is what Unity looks like. Now, if yours looks different than mine, that's okay. Don't freak out. That's perfectly normal, okay? Mine is set up for how I like my Unity layout to look. You can change yours around, and it's really easy to change where these tabs are and everything else. You can adjust the size of tabs. You can grab the tabs by the tab header there and just kind of click them wherever you want to go. Just click and drag. All that stuff. You can even go over here and just go to layout and just pick a layout that you like. 2x3. You could do 4 split. Whatever looks good for you. Let's do wide there. That looks good. I'm actually going to go back to my normal. All right. That looks fine for me. Sure. All right. Now, let's talk about these windows. The first window I want you to pay attention to is this window over here called the hierarchy. The hierarchy panel, These are all panels. The hierarchy panel is going to have all of the objects that exist in your game world. So if we put an object in the game world, it's going to exist here. Now, right now, what we have is we have a main camera object. That's this guy right here. Whenever you create a new 2D project in Unity, it's automatically going to come with a game camera because we need a camera to show us what we're looking at on the screen. And when I click on the camera, a couple things happen. One, my camera preview pops up so I can see what the camera is looking at. If I had other objects in the game world, I would see them here in the camera preview. And then also over here in the inspector panel, all this information popped up. This information is related to the main camera. So these are all options that are very specific to the main camera itself. So this transform section here, where it has the position on the X plane or the X axis, the Y axis, and the Z axis, that is referring to the main camera. If I had another object selected, it would be referring to that object, right? So we have position, rotation, scale. Scale is size. So I can make my camera twice as big on the X-axis just by going in here and hitting 2 and, hitting enter. So now my camera is twice as big on the X-axis than it was just a little bit ago, and I can shrink that back down. Now it doesn't look like anything's moving or changing here, and that's fine because it's just my camera, and there's nothing to judge the view against because there's no, it's all a matter of perspective. Down here, I have camera specific options such as what my background color for my camera is going to be. Let's say I want it to be a lighter blue, right? When I go back, my camera preview now is a lighter blue. I have my projection mode, which changes it from perspective to orthographic, which you don't really need to know what that means right now. We will talk about that as we get into those later. I can change the size of the camera here. I can change it by 10 to make it cover more of an area of my screen. I can change the viewport rectangle, change the depth, all this stuff, change the textures, whatever I want, right? But just know that the inspector is where your options for those objects are going to be. And they're going to be different options based on the kind of object you have, right? And we're going to go into that in a lot more detail when we actually start building a project. Down here is our project menu. Our project menu has a quick access to our assets folder. Remember, we saw our assets folder was, let me show you. It's inside the project folder, and this is our assets folder. If I was to put something in this assets folder here, like let's say we take this vertical wall section here, drop it into our, drop it into our assets folder. If we go back to Unity, no, that didn't work. If we go back to Unity, I should now see the wall, the vertical wall inside my assets folder, right? So just know this is a representation of what's going on in your file explorer, right? And even better, if I say I want to organize my material by creating a new file or a new folder in here, I can create a new folder and I can call that folder scripts, right? Now I have a folder inside my assets folder called scripts. If I go back to my file explorer, I now see I have a brand new folder called scripts. So again, this is a real-time one-for-one view of what's going on inside your assets folder. So this is how we're going to manage our files for our game. Now, if I want to bring a file, say this sprite object here, this sprite here, if I want to bring this into the game itself, all I have to do is drag it straight up, right? I can just drag it in, and now I have this vertical wall section here in this part of the game, and over here, a new item was added to my hierarchy, the wall vertical, right? And that wall, I can say, oh, I think it's too small. It's not going to be big enough. So maybe I need to make it bigger. I can't even see it on my camera because it's so small. So I can go in here and change the scale. I can set it to 50 on the X and 150 on the Y. So now I have a nice big wall section. If I go back to my camera, I can see that wall on my camera. right? So that's how all these menus kind of work together. And we're going to get into even more of these menus as they come up while we're making games. At some point, we're going to deal with animations. At some point, we're going to deal with no, just all kinds of stuff. There's no point in getting into it right now. So we've looked at the scene view so far, but we haven't really talked about what that is. Right here, you can see I'm in the scene view, and I have this, wired grid where I can kind of mess around with objects and put them where I want them to go based on, the grid itself. If I want to see what it's going to look like in the game, if I click Game View, then I see what the game screen should look like at any given time. Okay. But most people just work mostly in the scene view. Now let's take a look at some of the options we have with objects in the screen or in the scene view. First of all, we need to understand how to move around in Unity. You've noticed I've zoomed in and out. All I'm doing there is I'm scrolling up and down on the mouse wheel to zoom in and out on the scene view, right? I could also right click and move my mouse around. If I hold down the right mouse button, I can move my screen around with the right mouse button held down. Okay. Other things I could do is I can select an object in the hierarchy and hit F to focus on that. So if I'm all the way over here and I want to focus on my wall, nope, not that. How do I focus on it? Double click. There we go. I'll double click and it'll bring me in, it'll bring that object into view. So if I double click on objects, it'll bring those objects into view automatically. Okay. Now let's say this object, I want to, instead of putting in values over here for transform and rotation, I want to just change the values here. Well, I have these options here. These options will change what my cursor does. So this cursor, or this option, will basically replace my right click. It'll just allow me to left click and move around. This is my move tool, where I can use my left mouse button to move objects in the world. I can move them on the horizontal axis, I can move them on the vertical axis, or I can click this box here in the middle and move them around freely. Okay. I can also choose the rotation tool, where I get this cool circle around my object and I can actually rotate the object in real time just by clicking and making those rotation adjustments. Okay. I have my scale tool, which will allow me to scale my object on both the X and Y axis here, right? Make it bigger and smaller just by dragging. And notice that these numbers are updating as I'm changing, right? As I change the Y scale, it's updating those numbers over in the Y axis or the Y area. Okay. I also have my rect tool. The rect tool is kind of like a free transform tool. I can click the corners here and scale both the X and Y at the same time. I can click this circle here in the middle to move it around. I can hover over the edges here and rotate. So the rect tool is for, all the changes you might want to make to your transform properties here. And then over here I have move, rotate, or scale selected objects where I can actually, I see it's a little bit more complicated view of the rect tool. I get all those options at the same time and I can change them however I see fit. Okay. So that's basically how to move things around in Unity, how to manipulate objects in Unity. I want to show you a couple other things and then we will cut this and we'll get started on Pong. Actually, you know what? I'll show you that stuff while we're building Pong. This has been a long enough video. I think you have what you need to get started. So I'm going to cut this video short now, and then in the next video we will get started building the Pong project so that you can build your own version of Pong. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see you next time.